On average, countries waste about a third of their infrastructure spending due to inefficiencies. The good news is that efficiency losses and wasteful spending in infrastructure are not inevitable. Over half of these losses could be made up through better infrastructure governance. Infrastructure governance is about ensuring government spend efficiently and sustainably on infrastructure investments through better institutional capacity, regulations, and skills. It features prominently in the work of the G20, the Quality Infrastructure Investment Initiative, and the Osaka Principles, and is a key component of the global COVID-19 recovery. When infrastructure governance is weak, it limits a government's ability to design strategic vision, build a pipeline of viable projects, coordinate within and across governments, decide on appropriate role of the private sector, procure and regulate assets, and ensure integrity, transparency, and trust. Recent research shows this poses an even greater challenge to infrastructure investment than limiting access to financing. The fact is, it is hard to get this right, even for countries who mostly do. For example, High-Speed 2, a planned high-speed railway network in the United Kingdom, demonstrates the challenges of mega projects. First proposed as a way of stimulating jobs, it then became a way of saving travel time before deciding it was a way of regenerating the provinces. According to the Department of Transport, what started out as a £30 billion project has now ballooned into costing an estimated $106 billion.
To help governments avoid these situations, to overcome governance bottlenecks and enhance service delivery, the World Bank developed the Infrastructure Governance Framework, InfraGov for short, and it's broken down into 3 buckets. The first bucket concerns the project lifecycle. It relates to selecting, designing, procuring, and implementing the investment projects that will create new assets and services. This requires countries to get the legal framework right and ensure that officials have the needed capacity. The project should represent value for money, it should be affordable to the public, and it should be sustainable. The second bucket identifies a number of cross-cutting issues for good infrastructure investment. These include ensuring that social, environmental, and climate change considerations are fully integrated into every phase of the project's life. It also includes issues around how to fight corruption and how to ensure that important information is made available to the public to scrutinize. The final bucket looks at how infrastructure services are provided to citizens. This includes ensuring that there is a relevant and independent regulatory framework for sectors such as the power, water, or transport sector. It also requires governments to ensure that the state-owned enterprises and other state bodies involved in service provision have clear roles and responsibilities and manage their risks, and that there is a level playing field between them and other market players. So how does this actually work in practice? We start by benchmarking how a country is doing compared to its peers in sectors such as water, power, or transport. For example, for an assessment of Panama, we benchmarked the regional coverage of electricity with other countries in Latin America. This exercise will usually indicate where there are issues that need to be looked at. Next, we conduct a series of qualitative interviews with government officials. This includes ministries of finance and planning, as well as sectoral ministries, state-owned enterprises, and the private sector. This gives us an understanding of what's happening on the ground and what solutions have been identified and which direction to look. We're on track to complete 20 InfraGov assessments by the middle of 2022. One assessment in the Dominican Republic, completed last year, aimed to increase levels of private participation in the delivery of infrastructure services. We identified lagging sectoral governance arrangement as a key bottleneck, and improving these will enhance the operational efficiency of SOEs, which will allow the plugging of service gaps. It will also increase private sector interest in delivering services. The findings of the assessment are currently being rolled out. This involves new management approaches to water and power state-owned enterprises, the creation of a new PPP unit in the Ministry of Finance, and enhancing public sector skills to develop projects.
Improving infrastructure governance is not an aim in itself. The focus must remain on the services delivered to citizens and what stops this from being cost-efficient, sustainable, transparently built and operated. There's a significant potential for efficiency gains in public investment in emerging markets and low-income developing countries, since the investment gap with developed countries remains large. This means there's an urgency to ensure these countries get the most out of their investment budgets. Countries such as South Korea are leading the way with approaches that we can all learn from, such as integrating public and private financing through a unified approach. Together, we can ensure that infrastructure is governed effectively to bring about a more equal, inclusive, and sustainable future.